US is the world leader in AI, but they're looking over their shoulder because China's catching up and aiming to be number one by 2030.
A match like no other is about to get underway in South Korea.
Lee Si-dol, the long-reigning global champ.
This guy is a genius.
Will take on artificial intelligence program AlphaGo and the ultimate human versus machine smackdown.
In 2015, London-based artificial intelligence firm DeepMind, which is owned by Google, set out to beat the world's best Go player.
The number of possible configurations of the board is more than the number of atoms in the universe.
Go is probably the world's oldest board game, originating in China some 4,000 years ago.
Many people thought it was not possible to have a computer beat humans at Go.
Eric Schmidt was executive chairman of Alphabet, Google's parent company at the time.
They built an algorithm using something called reinforcement learning that allowed them to play the game differently. And shockingly to many, they built the top human players of a game that was 2,500 years old.
The computer hadn't just out-processed the human mind, it had out-imagined it.
그걸로도 이겼어? 그걸로도 이겼으면은
The interesting thing about the game is they played the game differently and they came up with new moves that had not been discovered in thousands of years of human play. That's the future of what AI can do.
At this tech forum in Wuzhen, China's...
Following the win, DeepMind's AI went to China so players could challenge and learn from the machine. But since then, this sort of collaboration between East and West is being overshadowed by an increasingly adversarial approach, in part because of the transformative power of AI.
It looks like we're ahead, but China's catching up very quickly. That's okay, let's stay ahead.
Schmidt is the chairman of the US National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence. He's hawkish about China's AI ambitions. In the report, he argues the US must win the AI competition, and that China's progress should concern all Americans.
We have a window to stay ahead. Now, what happens if we lose this one? How would you feel if all of the key drugs were first developed and patented in China and were available to Chinese people and not in the West because of some political reason? It would be terrible.
Medical research has become a focus for AI, with analytical predictive power being trained on vaccine and drug development. In early 2020, a team at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology used AI to discover a structurally unique antibiotic.
They took 100 million chemical compounds. They fed it into the AI system, and it figured out how the proteins and the molecules and all of the chemistry would work without them telling it. It literally discovered the rules. And most people thought that this was not computable.
Scientists see AI as a driving force behind helping us discover new drugs, treatments, and consumer products. And just like in Washington, Beijing knows there's everything to play for. The full strength of the Chinese Communist Party is being focused on AI. The Chinese State Council has ordered all corners of the People's Republic to prioritize the development and implementation of AI. And the order makes clear there's no time to lose.
They see AI as a general purpose technology, and GPTs historically, like electricity, the steam engine, they have presented opportunities for immense boosts to productivity. And for Chinese leaders, economic productivity, especially through new technologies like AI, is what's going to be key to sustaining economic growth and continue China's rise as an advanced economy, help it escape the middle income trap, so move up to higher levels of the manufacturing chain in terms of value add, and also crucially for maintaining performance legitimacy in the eyes of the citizens.
Jeffrey Ding is a researcher at Stanford's Center for International Security and Cooperation. He argues there's a misconception in the West that it's Beijing driving the innovation when most of it is coming from Chinese companies.
You're seeing companies lead the way, and it's not necessarily a centralized top-down directive. In fact, before the July 2017 central plan for AI development, a lot of provinces, a lot of cities had already issued their own AI development plans, and companies were already investing large amounts of money into AI. So you see, in a sense, a lot of times the central government is following the direction that's already been set by other actors.
The country has never emphasized innovation more than they do today, right? Innovation is at the center of China's modernization.
Robin Li is the co-founder of China's most popular search engine, Baidu.
I think companies like us, we invest, more than 15% of our total revenue every year to do R&D. I think the government like that. I truly believe that this represents the future, and we'll be able to make big difference to China, to the society, to all the people who can benefit from AI.
Robin Li pointed to President Xi Jinping's ongoing crackdown on domestic industries as part of a broader effort by Beijing to accelerate its effort to become technologically independent.
You just cannot imagine, the number one and number two guy all of a sudden merge and gaining more than 90% of market share in the US. But that happened quite a few times in China before. That's not good for innovation. So I think that the antitrust push is kind of justified.
Baidu is one of China's largest computer technology companies, but the recent detention of Alibaba's CEO has highlighted that even the biggest companies need to tread lightly. That degree of central control helps Beijing focus China's huge resources on certain challenges, but it could also hold them back.
My guess is, and this is just my view, is that Chinese entrepreneurial nature, this entrepreneurship that I've seen in China, is so strong that they will do well in spite of these restrictions, but the Chinese government could always overreach.
Concern over China's reach is being played out now in the waters around Taiwan. Chinese President Xi Jinping has called bringing the self-ruled island under Beijing's control an inevitable outcome, as rhetoric on both sides heats up. The future of AI plays a part in that equation. Although the US leads the world in AI, with China accelerating behind, it's Taiwan that makes the advanced chips needed to run these systems.
Today, the key and smartest chips in the world are built primarily in a company called TSMC in Taiwan. It looks to us like America is a few generations behind them, and it looks to us like China is a few generations behind America. China has also been trying to catch up, and they've spent billions and billions of dollars, and they haven't been able to do it.
As tensions rise in the region and US and Chinese militaries explore possible scenarios, the use of AI could give one side the edge. But what exactly that would mean isn't clear.
In general, part of the problem with AI and war is that everything's going to happen faster. I'll give you an example. Let's imagine you're on a ship and you're a commander and you're intelligent and you're ready, and the computer says, there's a weapon coming at you. You can't see it. I recommend you press this button, and if you don't press this button, you will be dead. The odds of that human pressing that button are very, very high. This compression of time is a key problem we're going to face in our defense strategy. We want to have enough time for informed and educated decisions, and yet these AI weapons can make things happen faster than human decision time.
And while the headlines focus on difficult issues like machine-directed weapons, perhaps the big gains will be made elsewhere.
Our eyes and attention are drawn to the most conspicuous, most obvious things like the weapon. Whereas I think some of the most transformative implications of AI for military affairs will come through things like communications. And I think we saw similar things with how electricity, another general purpose technology, affected warfare. People at the time thought there would be electric rays of mass destruction and that people would shoot off electric death lasers, and that would be sort of the weapon to end all wars. But actually the most important and significant implications of electrical innovations for military affairs came through communications. The electric telegraph, the radio, these were things that fundamentally changed how militaries communicated and were organized.
With so much at stake, investment in AI is expected to grow massively. Schmidt argues the US needs to think big if it wants to stay ahead. He, like many leaders in Silicon Valley, would like the doors thrown open to the best and brightest from across the world.
This stuff is so painful to understand that you really need a math or a physics PhD, computer science PhD. We need to get all of those people into our country so that we can put them on these projects, both for the military and for our commercial sector.
For Schmidt, this technology race is also about values. He's called China's domestic use of AI a chilling precedent for anyone around the world who cherishes individual liberty.
They understand the value of efficiency, and because of the laws are different, they're able to violate people's privacy, surveil people, and so forth, and amass these very large databases. We took a position that we need to do this consistent with American values.
But if tech titans in Silicon Valley are concerned China is going to take their spot, Ding argues they shouldn't.
I would say that the US is still very much the technological leader in this space, and that China is not poised to overtake the US in this domain, contrary to what a lot of people have predicted.
Saber rattling from Washington and Beijing is harming the chance for global collaboration. Robin Lee studied at both Peking University, Beijing, and the University at Buffalo, New York. He sees any freeze in relationships between the two powers as not just bad for business, but bad for progress.
AI can help in a lot of scenarios, in a lot of cases. And wherever you need high-end chips, be it a data center or edge computing for smart transportation, for energy sector, for education, or for finance, they all need this kind of high-end chips to do complicated AI tasks. I don't have the crystal ball, but my preference is certainly that both countries can work together. And I think by working together, a lot of things can be done faster and the world will be better off. Like you mentioned, I spent quite a few years in the US. I know the US well, and I love my country. I love China. I think for Baidu's success, we obviously are rooted here in China. We will benefit from a very large market and the government policy.